So welcome everyone to Transatlantic Poetry, our broadcast for September 2015. My name is Robert Peake, creator of the series, and I'm filling in this evening for John Gossley of Fjords Review. It's my just great pleasure to be hosting these two poets this evening, Danez Smith from the UK, and from the US, and Liz Berry from the UK. Before we get started, just want to remind you that you can ask these two wonderful poets questions as we go along. So the sort of latter half of tonight's broadcast will be dedicated to taking your questions live on air and having a conversation between these two poets on either side of the Atlantic Ocean. So to do that, you can tweet using the hashtag #TAPoetry, TA as in Transatlantic Poetry. We'll pick those up there. If you're tuning into us on YouTube, there should be a little question button, a little sort of yellow-orange question button. You can use that to ask questions. Or if you're on the Google Plus event page, just go ahead and fire a question off into the comment box. We'll be monitoring that throughout the evening. Happy to take your questions for these two wonderful poets. So without too much further on that, it's really my pleasure to, first to welcome Liz Berry. Liz Berry was born in the Black Country. That's an industrialized area in the middle west part of the United Kingdom, known for mining and steelworks. She now lives in the major city nearby of Birmingham. Her debut poetry collection, called Black Country, came out from Chatto and Windus in 2014. It was a Poetry Book Society recommendation. It received a Somerset Maugham Award and won the Ford Prize for Best First Collection. It was also chosen as Book of the Year for The Guardian, The Telegraph, The Mail, The Big Issue, and The Morning Star. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Liz Berry. Liz, are you there?
I am. Good evening, or good afternoon, I should say, to some of you. I'm going to start with a poem called Bird. When I became a bird, Lord, nothing could not stop me. The air feathered as I knelt by my open window for the charm. Black on gold, last star of the dawn. Singing, they came. Throstles, Jenny Wrens, Jack Squallers swinging their anchors through the clouds. My heart beat like a wing. I shed my nightdress to the drowning arms of the dark, my shoes to the sun's widening mouth. Bed, I found my bones hollowing to slender pipes, my shoulder blades tufting down. I spread my flight-greedy arms to watch my fingers dueling like 10 hummingbirds. My feet callousing to knuckly claws as my lips calcified to a hooked kiss. Silence. Then an exultation of larks filled the clouds, and in my mother's voice chorused, "Take flight, chick, go far for the winter." So I left girlhood behind me like a blue egg and stepped off from the window ledge. How light I was as they lifted me up from wren's nest, bore me over the edgelands of concrete and coal. I saw my grandmother waving up from her fold, loop the infant school and factory. Let the Zephyrs carry me out to the coast. Lunas I flew, battered and tuneless. The storms turned me inside out like a fury. There wasn't one small part of my body didn't bore, until I felt it. At last, the rush of squall thrilling my wing, and I knew my voice was no longer words but song. Black upon black, I raised my throat to the wind, and this is what I sang. I grew up in an area called Dudley in the Black Country in the middle of England, and it's an area of Britain with a much maligned dialect and accent. Year upon year it's voted the least lovely accent in all the British Isles, which seems to me such a terrible shame, because I think it's a beautiful voice full of grit and music and roughness and tenderness, and so many people who I love and have loved have spoken in that way that it seemed to me something worth celebrating and worth treasuring. So this poem is a love poem for the language and the people of the Black Country. It's called Homing. For years, you kept your accent in a box beneath the bed, the lock crusted shut by hours of elocution. How now, brown cow? The teacher's ruler across your legs. We heard it escape sometimes. A guttural "oh" on the phone to your sister. Saft or blood. To a taxi driver unpacking your bags from his boot. I loved its thick drawl. G's that rang. Clearing your house. The only thing I wanted was that box, jimmied open, to let years of lost words spill out. Bibble, fiddle, tie, wom. Vowels ferrous as nails, consonants you could lick the coal from. I wanted to swallow them all. The pits, railways, factories thunking and clanging the night shift. The red brick back to back you were born in. I wanted to forge your voice in my mouth. A blacksmith's furnace. Shout it from the roofs. Send your words like pigeons fluttering for home. This next poem is called The Silver Birch. Let me tell you about the sex I knew before sex. In the beginning, when I was a creature, when I took the bit of your hair between my teeth and pushed your face to the silver birch while you whimpered at the fur of me. How I came alive in dens and copses, in the tall grass where the sky lurched violet. Yes, those days, when I was neither girl or boy, but my body was a sheaf of unwritten upon paper, now folding, unfolding, origami new. Days pale as the silver birch, when sex was a pebble thrown into the pond of me, rippling out. When I held your fingers in my mouth as the woods hummed electric with sensation. Now they sang, now. And everything was sex then, although I could not name it. It was the scar upon your shoulder, an arrow of light through the beeches. Days wet as cuckoo spit, when I lay skin bare in the field, each insect, jack in the hedge, every bowing poppy touching me. Oh, my body was a meadow then. and you could lie in me forever and still not be done. This poem's called Sow, and I wrote it after I caught a girl in the changing rooms at the swim baths who I think thought she was by herself in there, stepping onto the weighing scales and then saying to herself in this really awful, pained voice, "You fat pig." And my heart hurt for her, and I couldn't stop thinking about her. I think probably because I'd been that girl too. So I wanted to write a poem that would transform her and that moment into a different kind of piglet, a really naughty, sexy, riotous, rebellious sow that would stick up all her trotters at any such notions. So here she is, the little sow. Dainty footwear turns a young lady into an altogether more beautiful creature. Eliza Sell, Etiquette for Ladies. Trottering down the Oss Road in my new hooves, and farmyard is sweet, fresh from the filth of straw and swill, the trembly leg sniff of the slaughter wagon, a guzzler, guilt, trollopy and canting, root your tongue beneath me frock and gulp the brute stench of the sty. I've stopped denying myself, nibbling grateful as a pet on baby leaves, afeard of the glutton of belly and rump. I've sunk, and when lads hold out apples on soft city palms, I guttle and spit, for I need a mon with a body like a trough of tumbly slop to bury me snout in. All them soft years of hiding at home and prancing like a pony for some sod to broil and shove down the pit, shying away from his dirty fists. All them nights, me eyes rolling white in the dark, when the sow I am was biting and squealing to get out. No mon dare scupper me, no fancy horse bints, for I've kicked the fence and I'm roiling on me back in the muck, out of me mind with grunting pleasure. Trotters pointing to the heavens like chimney pots, sticking V to the cockerel, prissy and crowing on his high church spire. And I'll just read two more poems. It's a poem about my childhood, about my time as a little girl. It's called When I Was a Boy. I was a boy every weekday afternoon the year I was 7. Hitched my school skirt into shorts, flattened my hair with a black ballet band, wore my brother's elasticated tie. I had many different names, sometimes Paul or Stephen, boy next door, sometimes Dean, rough, or Jean-Paul, exotic and here on exchange. I didn't bother with chit-chat, got straight down to the real stuff. An aeroplane made from homework that gave paper cuts as it flew. Thin sugary sticks, I sucked like cigarettes then tossed out of the window. The stubble I was cultivating. I built remarkable things. A model of our school with working windows, a ukulele. I twirled 2 potato guns on my cocked thumbs. The girls loved me, held my hand whilst I ignored them, swaggered down the street, ripe for danger. I rode my bike with my blouse off, admiring my reflection in wing mirrors, legs kicked in a triumphant V, fist in the air. And I'll finish with a sweet poem. My little boy was born nearly 2 years ago, and in the final months of being pregnant, I found myself thinking a lot about what that night would be like, the experience of birth. As it turns out, I actually had no idea. But in my really romantic imaginings, I found myself thinking a lot about the night when my partner was born, and how that moment of somebody being born, coming into the world, how that can go on and change your story forever, even though you might not know for years, even decades. Seems such a beautiful thought to me. The night you were born. It was a month before May. All the lights in the Black Country out for the evening. Wren's nest tucked under a blanket of darkness. Mother down by the fog beams of your dad's van as it sped to the hospital. In the back, the dog, snuffling in a bed of tools and wood shavings. In the front, your mum, panting on the turns, a frightened moon face whining at the window. I think about that night when I doze, heavy with our sun in the snow-softer hours. What it would have been to have seen you, pushed, howling, from that red tent of legs. The first word on the page of our story. I press myself against you in the darkness. Listen for your murmur as he moves inside me. Oh, love. I can almost hear it now. That first cry. A raw thread of sound spooling through a winter to stitch our lives together. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. That was really wonderful. It's poignant, funny, moving, just beautiful and terrific. So really a pleasure to have you here. Before I introduce Danez, just want to remind those of you who may be tuned in a little late that one of the privileges you have as those of you that are tuning in live to this is that you can ask questions of our 2 poets. So please feel free. You'll find a little yellow question button on the YouTube link, or you can tweet to #TAPoetry or make a comment on the Google Plus event page. Love to have your questions and your contributions for these 2 poets in their conversation, which we'll have just after Danez's reading. So Danez Smith is the author of Insert Boy, which came out from Yes Yes Books in 2014 and won the Lambda Literary Award for Gay Poetry. His second full-length collection, Don't Call Us Dead, will be published by Grey Wolf Press in the US in 2017. His work has been in Poetry Magazine, Boa Poetry Journal, BuzzFeed, Blavity, Plowshares. In 2014, he was a Ruth Lilly Dorothy Sargent Fellow. He's a Cava Canem and a VONA alumnus, recipient of a McKnight Foundation Fellowship. Twice, he was a finalist in the Individual World Poetry Slam, placing second in 2014. He's micro-editor of The Offing and a founding member of 2 different collectives, Dark Noise and the Sad Boy Supper Club. Danez is an MFA candidate at the University of Michigan, and he originally comes from St. Paul, Minnesota. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome Danez Smith.
And hi, there we go. Hi, everybody. It's nice to, oh my God, Liz, that was so wonderful and beautiful, and I'm so excited to talk about poems to you. I knew from the book that you were, but I loved, yeah, that was so great. I'm so honored to be here on the internet with you all. I don't have pants on, by the way, so this is the most comfortable reading I've ever done in my life. Just me, yeah, below here is nature. So I'm gonna do this poem since Liz started with birds. I'm gonna start with an animal too. So this is a new poem called Dogs. 1. Scooby-Doo was trying to tell us something when every time that monster mask got snatched off, it was a greedy white dude. 2. In 97, a black comic gets on stage, says, "You ever notice how white dogs be like woof woof and black dogs be like rough rough motherfucker?" 3. The dog upstairs won't shut up, and I've thought of ending his little noisy life, but I have to remember he matters. He matters, and if I did, the brown girl upstairs would cry forever. 4. Dog, noun, a man's best friend. C, fetch, rollover, canine, good boy, put down. Example, my dog died. I had to do it with my own hand. Dog, noun, a man's best friend. C, blunts rolled already. Handshake, mine nigga, put me on. Example, my dog died. He did it with his own hands. 5. Dogs in this house eat the same thing we do. We eat greens, he eat greens, fried bologna, neck bones, leftovers. He died from the sugar, gout, or whatever came for Big Mama, came back for the dog. 6. Everybody loved Lassie, but what about Sounder? 7. Possible rite of passage number 37, graduating from outrunning the block's dogs to outrunning the block's police. 8. I too have been called boy and expected to come. Kneel. 9. What animorph did you want to be? I wanted to be the boy who turned into the bird limp in the dog's wet mouth, holding me toward his human, saying, I made this for you. 10. The dog upstairs need to stop running his mouth, talking all that shit. I could hear him up there. Ooh, don't think I understand. He don't know I got a bark too, teeth too, thumbs, and a terrible child's mind. 11. Something about Airbud felt the talented, obedient beast, the roar of the eggshell crowd. 12. Dogs aren't racist, but they can be trained to be, as can the water, as can the trees, as can gravity, as can anything marked by a pale hand, turn blood gold, a bitter king's magic touch. 13. I'm the kind of werewolf that turns into a shih tzu. Fear me. 14. While my grandma spoke on the clean blood of Jesus, I watched the hounds in the mud, horny for anything warm, and thought of something better to worship. 15. I stand in the dark bathroom in my tightest, shortest shorts, my Vaseline legs, the only things catching the light. I say, I'm a real bitch 3 times, clap my hands above my head, nothing happens. I walk back into the club. I put my hand on a man's chest, and it's a paw. 16. The gay agenda made Cat Dog to offer your child's gender to their 7-headed god. Cat Dog was a really weird cartoon that was on when I was growing up. Back to the poem. 17. A dead dog is a hero. A dead lion is a hero. A cloned sheep is a miracle. A dead child is a tragedy, depending on the color, the nation, the occupation or non-occupation of the parents. 18. As a child, I stayed inside singing in the mirror while the other boys ran around growling, burying things. 19. During the new moon, I switched to I switched from an A to the traditional ER. I raid the farm, smash the melon patch, swallow the chickens whole, spit out the bones, ground down to sky's great nothing. 20. Rough, rough motherfucker, rough, rough motherfucker, rough, rough motherfucker, rough, rough motherfucker, rough, rough motherfucker. 21. Dog bred to smell the coke. Dog bred to smell the bomb. Dog bred to smell the nigger beneath the floorboards. 22. My breed is hunted for the fear of our dark fur. 23. My man's dog won't leave the room when we fuck, won't let his lord out his sight, won't let his master disappear, won't let himself go hungry, won't let nothing happen to the one who brings the water, even if it means being owned, being a witness to his hunger, or maybe he's just dumb. 24. Stay open. Stay. Look at me. Stay open. Teeth. Bad. Bad. Stay open. Treat. treat, pant, wag, treat, good, say, 25. I listened to DMX smoking a blunt, doing about 90 and a 55. When the cop asked me why he pulled me over, I say I'm just trying to be me, 26. The dog upstairs won't shut up, but I can't hate him. He's up there alone all day making noise. Must be the only way he knows he's not a ghost. Alright. I think I'm going to do mostly new poems for today. I've been thinking a lot about intersections of race and gender and class and all this other kind of stuff. Gender's complicated, y'all, and it's the new frontier. Yeah, so I'm going to read a couple more poems that are like kind of meditative thoughts. This poem is called, and I think it has a lot of conversation with some of Liz's work, especially when I was a boy. So this poem is called Girl Child. I wanted to kiss boys and so wanted to be a girl. I begged my mother for Barbies and begged the father for her shape, her safe color, my little binary prayer, pink and blue bruised want. When I got grown, I shared meals and drinks and smoke with men who called each other girl and relate with the blonde women weeping on the TV and the salad and red wine. I smoked blunts while writing essays about Baldwin, listening to Parliament and Funk or Monica, men texting me about my boy, pussy, this is my gender. I run naked under the new moon, stars glinting off my dick ring. I hum, if I was your woman, into the sandalwood ear of a boy who visits occasionally for worship. He calls me everything but my name. I like all I am on his tongue. I'm every woman. It's all in me. I'm a mama's boy, part gutter, part reindeer, bow-legged, hung, and I'm not always looking to be touched back or at all. I didn't choose any of this skin, this anatomy, this skin I craved to make a body out of me as a child. I wanted to be a queen or a preacher man, the president or his wife. I tried on my mother's dresses and spun until it was my new lace skin, a child made of soft blues, other time red satin. I was either an angel or hellbound. Either way, I was pretty. Here's what I think about gender. I don't. I know what on my body gives me privilege and what about my body makes me a target. When people say act like a man, I disappear. When people say dress like one, I cover myself in blood. Just kidding. When I was born, the doctor said, oh, well, I want to be the quarterback or the prettiest girl at prom or God with 8 arms and 2 mouths and a temple that's been empty for years, a chant still ringing off the ceiling. I'm grown now. I just want to be alone. Not all the time, but enough. In my room, I dance like I'm caught in the spirit or ritual or in strong arms and nothing on my body has a name. I am just a vessel of atoms and ease, always a day away from glory, being a fruit and mouths and sin and exodus. My body just a matter of matter, light filtered through a prism in the dark. All right, this next poem, I'm actually going to screen share with y'all because it's got some footnotes going on. Entire screen, yes, indeed. All right, so I'm going to, wait, did it roll over? Yes, it did. Okay, cool. So this poem is called, I've been thinking, so like I don't necessarily care what pronouns people use for me. I don't really, like, identify more strongly with blackness than I do with gender. And I also love the N-word, which it might be a controversial opinion. So I'm trying to take different uses of the word nigga and break it down through like this thing of gender. So this is a little series. It's brand spanking new. I like wrote it like late the other day. So this is called Nigga as Pronoun. Nigga, tonight I'm about to be too much. In this context, the room is the nigga. Or maybe you're talking about your reflection, or the wood skin ghost dancing around your ankles and on top the shea butter, or the whole damn world. Or perhaps you yourself the nigga in question when you turn to no one, everyone, and announce you plan to be some kind of sight, a mess, the queen of some man's neck, salt lick for whatever beast you are. I mean, I'm the beast queen. Tonight, I feast on his highness. Footnote. When you have a second, Google women who have named themselves king. catch up on RuPaul's Drag Race, go to YouTube and listen to Sylvester's You Make Me Feel Mighty Real. Watch the video. Now you sing it. Sing it, nigga. Let it out. Tell me how it feels to be your own guy. I'm that nigga. I scream in the field, and I'm not talking about where the meat falls for me. I'm singing a song for my lost ones, a dare to America. I'm that nigga, that very one. I'm that nigga in the flesh. What's good? I come from a long line of I'm that niggas, like every nigga comes from I'm that nigga, and I'm that nigga over there, and any I'm that nigga will do, and I'm that nigga up in the tree. Like you heard about that? I'm that nigga Danez. I heard they raised I'm that nigga up real high. Said my I'm that nigga was posted in the leaves, turned my I'm that nigga into a bad bird, bad fruit, bad light, hashtag, warning, footnote. Of course you know anything can be a tree. You don't need a gender, just skin. Nigga. As in, let me tell you. As in, I can't believe they said that and thought you wasn't going to say something. As in, you already know. As in, let me find out. As in, remember that time. As in, every time. As in, as if blood. As in, I've known you since we was little niggas, and we ran through your mama's sprinkler. Each jump a little baptism, and one day your mama made you cover up something that was not yet there. And I wanted your top, your whole outfit, your new bikini body water church clothes, but I already knew. Footnote. What did I know? What did I know of the bodies I steer in lonely offices? Oh, nigga, oh. The above is A, the sound I made when he was most inside me. B, a picture of him when he was most inside me. C, a face. D, the original title of Othello. E, a black man on a train. You're going to have to crook your neck for this one. Answer, your first sonogram. A picture of you inside your mother. The only thing the doctor knew you were. Nigga. Somewhere, a white boy is in his room, in the lunchroom, in the car with his father, alone, in the morning, in the dark, under his breath, like a war cry, with the song, with his friend, in his lover's ear, when he's 8, when he's 40, when he's angry, ooh, that's a typo, when he's angry, as a punchline, just to try it, nigga, 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 nigga. He means all of us. All right. Thank you all for doing that. All right. Now send me I want my picture back. So yes. Okay, there we go. All right. I'm gonna read 2 more. Cool. Let's do this. Thank you. I think I'm gonna still stick on new work. All right. I'll read like 3 more. Okay. Because then I can end happy. All right. So this is which one I'll read first? I'll read this one. Yeah. So I think this is still like sort of thinking about gender, and the confusion of it, and sort of like how it doesn't matter. It matters, and it does. Like it matters, but like how kind of blackness so kind of supersedes that. Like even when we talk about violence and around black bodies in America and around the world, I think a lot of times, especially here in the States, we get caught up on talking about the violence against black male bodies. This poem is trying to sort of play with that gender when we think about who is victims of that violence. Called What I Was Wearing. New khakis, my brother's denim jacket, 2-tone do-rag, my wedding ring, a black hoodie, my blackness, a 3-piece suit, a caramel turtleneck, my hands in the air like lightning rods, my hands in the air like lightning, Rod Stewart t-shirt, ripped jeans, the yellow sun dress mama sent for my last birthday, my favorite nail color gunmetal, the hand of God around my neck like a human hand, like any rope, my new Pumas, a tangerine scarf, dotted with hot sauce and milk, macaroni bracelet my sister made, my wallet, or I was strapped up, my hands in the air repping neighborhoods, no bra, no shirt, no chain, no hat, my hat straight as a compass, no angle to suggest affiliations, my rag tucked into my back pocket, my ruby backpack with ink-stained front pocket, the gold necklace left to me, grandpa's only wealth, Pistons jersey, replica, Isaiah Thomas hand-me-down, Brooks Brothers slim fit, blue button down, a good shoe, my hands in the air like twins with their hands in the air, my hair in my mouth when I tried to scream, wait. So this next poem is dedicated to a friend of mine, Andrew Thomas, who recently passed away, called Elegy Ending in Nothing. What do you do when a boy lynches himself, when the mob isn't under his skin but under it, when anything that can hold his weight becomes a tree, when you can't close your eyes and not see him there? Low brown planet, sunned orbit, swaying and cooling rapidly. I counted all the things that could end a boy, but forgot to count the boy himself. How could I? I too have wondered at the other side of it, the matter of you neither created nor destroyed, but something we have to wonder for, only a myth and faith and doubt about the place that lives, we hope lives, after the body spits the soul out like a black seed. We are left to harvest this bitter fruit. Your name in past tense. What good is hiding the gun and locking the cabinet if children can still find their own hands? If anything that loops can be a rope. I don't want to think this, but I think this. I want to believe an e-boat thing like flying home, soaring the ocean floor, but damn it, Andrew, they turned you into dust. Dust. Your whole body gray in a brass bowl waiting to be scattered, to jewel the wind, get caught in our eyes. In my dreams, I pull at a rope for hours, miles of rope in my bloody, bloody hands. And when I get to the end, your neck gold and unbreakable, laughing so hard I wake up to the windows rattling with no storm or breeze or world outside at all. All right. And this one's gonna be my last poem. Hopefully it's happy. Cause yeah, poems are hard, y'all. Like I think that's like if I ever wrote a book of craft, that's what it's called. Poems are hard. All right. I guess to listen to all this like new stuff. Like a lot of y'all are the first people to hear a lot of these poems. All right. Called "Ooh, You Look Like." Usually heard in the context of receiving services from a service industry employee when you finally make it to the front of the line, and as said employee is ringing you up, looks upon your face and sees a face not yours, and so says, "I know you, don't I?" To which you say, "Maybe you went to Central." To which she says, "Nah, you know Shanice, but you don't know any Shanices particularly well." So you say, "Nah," but then her face lights up and fingers snap the way your mother's does when she has a revelation and says, "Oh, you look like Kenneth," and so calls over Tasha to confirm that you indeed do look like Kenneth, to which Tasha says, "Hell yeah," dragging the whole thing out to let you know how much you look like the man you don't know. In this whole moment you hate, not because of this small little ritual of looking like someone, but because the whole time you ask yourself, what the fuck does Kenneth look like? And so take to the phone book to look up any man named Kenneth, but upon realizing that the phone book is listed by last name, you take to the internet and look up every black man in the metropolitan area named Kenneth, Kenny, or Ken with only minimal breaks to look at a little porn, and knowing that photos lie, decide to find Kenneth. And over the course of 3 months of sleepless nights of waiting outside the homes and jobs of every black Kenneth in town, and 19 visits to the prison for the 19 black Kenneths in prison, and tracking down 2 black Kenneths who haven't been home in a while, and laying 6 flowers on 6 graves with only minimal breaks nights to watch porn, and only having one situation get a little weird when Kenneth 47 caught you looking at more than his face in the restroom you followed him into, you conclude that that nigga Kenneth looks nothing like you. Tasha, be lying. Thank you.
Thank you, Danez. That was tremendous. A tour de force of work. Really enjoyed that very much. Again, incredible range. So we've had some questions come in as we've been listening to the poems here this evening. One from Valerie in London. She asks, how do you stay inspired and how do you keep growing yourself as an artist in the process of being a poet in this case? Let's start with Liz. Liz, if you want to come back to us, how do you stay inspired? How do you keep growing? What inspires you? What grows you? What's your trajectory as a poet?
I think I try to constantly keep that sense of wonder and fascination. I love reading. I love hearing other poets. I like listening to people chatting in the world, in pubs, in supermarkets, at playgroup, in restaurants. I like hearing about real people's lives and their ordinary lives and their families and their loves and their sorrows and their dreams. And I think that's what inspires the work. I've always worked with little children. Before I had my son, I was an infant school teacher, and now I've got my own little boy. So I find little children incredibly inspiring, just because they're chaotic and reckless and outspoken, and I think they're people in their purest form before we start neating ourselves up and tidying ourselves and behaving as we should. They're these really wild, spontaneous creatures. So I think that wildness and that spontaneity and that fluidity is something that's really inspiring to me.
Yeah, excellent. And Danez, what do you think?
I don't know. I agree. I try to like sort of maintain that like childlike wonder about the world. To like always sort of have a question or be curious about something. But really a lot of reading. Like when I'm not inspired by anything, you know, it's sort of difficult to wait for inspiration to come. Sometimes you're not inspired. Sometimes you're a little weaker or less curious about the world. So I try to stay an avid reader. I try to read more than I write, and just sort of stay sort of investigating like the works of others and the works of who's like making. And like try to be contemporary. Like I don't know, I like reading older stuff. I really like to know like where we're all at right now as like living, breathing poets. So really trying to stay on top of like what's being published right now and like who's not being published right now. Looking at smaller stuff and just trying to figure out what's going on. You know, like my students inspire the crap out of me. So I love like working with young people and their brains are so fresh. And so like I sort of feel like I get to like get a sneak preview to like where poetry is heading sometimes. So that keeps me very inspired to like work. Yeah.
Fantastic. And just you know, playing off of that straight away, what are you reading that's inspiring you now? Just, you know, one or two things that's doing it for you. We'll start with Danez and then Liz.
Okay. This is Nate Marshall's new book, Wild Hundreds. It's very good. It's from University of Pittsburgh Press. I was just at the book release last night. Nate, I don't know, I just can't get through this book without tears falling down my face. He just writes so gorgeously about where he comes from, the Wild Hundreds in the south side of Chicago. And it's brutal, and it's honoring, and it's so much love and joy that I just, like, I get overwhelmed, so I always get, like, 20 pages in and then have to put it back down. And then C.A. Conrad's new book, where is it at? It's in my bag somewhere. I can't stand up because I don't have pants on, but y'all know C.A. Conrad. He's dope. And Natalie Ellenberg is really dope. I did a reading with her last week. I feel like I've been getting to really dope readings with really dope people lately. Thanks, Liz. But she was super fresh, and she just had a poem in the New Yorker that I thought was really fly. And yeah, there's just a lot of good work going on. And then like folks like Angel Nafis and Morgan Parker and all of it. So, yeah.
Great. And Liz?
I've just been reading some of the books that are on the Forward shortlist this year. Tomorrow's the Forward Prizes in Britain, a really big event, especially for the first collection. So I've been reading Karen McCarthy Wolf's really beautiful book, and also Andrew McMillan's amazing debut collection, Physical, which I'm just in love with. They're these tender, really sexy, intimate, but also kind of everyday poems about men and the relationships and their bodies and what it means to have a body and be in a body and be physical with somebody else. So it's a beautiful collection, and I'll be really interested to see what happens tomorrow night.
Fantastic. Yeah, me too. And I loved his pamphlet that preceded it as well. That's great. That's great. Thank you both. I've been taking notes, by the way. Just I'm always hungry myself. I have a question, as well, and it's around poetry, identity, and community. And I don't know that I've formulated it all perfectly at this point, but I just want to open this up. You talked about sort of listening to real people, and then as one of your poems, you said something about I didn't choose this, or so there's a sense of to me of being chosen, perhaps. And so I just wonder, to what extent as poets do you feel that you are speaking for your community or communities? Do you feel in some ways ostracized by those communities for being a poet? What is the relationship between being a poet and being in a particular one or more communities that you live in and work in? And what is that dynamic, and how does that work for you personally as an artist? Let's start with you, Danez.
Yeah. I think that's a question that a lot of writers from like diverse or like marginalized backgrounds think about. Do I have to speak for all Black people? Do I have to speak for all women? Do I have to speak for all queers and stuff like that? And so I think it's a question we grapple with. I try not to let it overwhelm my thoughts at all. I don't feel obligated to speak for any community, but I think with the current political landscapes of the world, it would be irresponsible to not address those communities and like the oppression against them. Particularly for me, like Black folks, brown folks, and just like people of color, trans folks, queer folks. So I don't. Yeah, but I think it's a balance of. I think it's a responsibility, and I think it's also about like recognizing yourself as not like some sort of like self-appointed prophet or anything like that. I think that's a danger. I see some folks just say really dumb things when they think they're talking on behalf of everybody. It's like, no, just take that back. Only you think that, and that's okay. So I don't know. Yeah. So I think it's a dangerous line to toe, and I think it's important that we sort of dance near it, but always try to end up on the right side of it, even if we fail sometimes. So
responsibility, but not an appointment necessarily that you take too far.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Responsibility and not an appointment.
Fair enough. Liz, how about you?
I think for me it's been quite an interesting one, because the book Black Country is so about a particular place and a particular community. I think for a lot of people it's been their first insight into that place and that world, and it's a place that really no one ever says anything good about. Certainly never hear anything great about that area or about the people that come from there or the women that come from there. Anywhere in the wider media. So it felt like a big sort of responsibility, but also a real privilege to be able to have the opportunity to say something good about the people that live there, about their lives, about their feelings. And just for my own family, that felt a really important thing. But I completely agree that you can't pretend to speak for everybody, and I don't. I'm interested in the lives of people in the Black Country, particularly in the lives of women and girls, but also in challenging some of the experiences and some of the beliefs and stereotypes that occur in the Black Country in terms of the lives of women and girls and their dreams and desires and feelings. But it's a really diverse area. It's diverse in race and class and age and gender. So I can speak for me and my experience of it, but I couldn't pretend to speak for everybody, and I wouldn't want to.
That makes sense. And what has the reception been of the people in the Black Country to your speaking as a poet from your experience of being there?
Oh, well, it's just been overwhelmingly lovely. No, it's been absolutely just overwhelming delight. I think people have been so positive about it and really supportive, and I think it's allowed people to sort of have a way of expressing some of the pride and the affection they feel for their area and their families and the language and the kind of work that's happened in that area. So it's been a really beautiful response. I've been really, surprised and delighted by it.
Lovely, lovely. Well, I want to loop back on this idea of what you choose and what you don't choose, and so I'm curious to what extent you feel that in your life you may have chosen poetry for a particular reason, as a particular mode of expression, and so why, if you chose poetry, and also if you feel to some extent that poetry chose you, what that experience is, why, what that means, or what that is for you. So did you choose poetry, or did poetry choose you, and why? Danez, let's start with you again.
I like to think about it like an open relationship. I think every day me and poetry have to wake up and choose each other. And yeah, I definitely I know high school was definitely where I started to fall in love with poetry and with poets themselves, and just sort of the mind behind the poetry too. I'm obsessed with the particular type of brain that poets have. And I still like to create other things. I was first a theater kid in school, and growing up, and I still love that very much. That's why I call it open. Sometimes I think I very much chose poetry. It's sort of how my brain can make sense of the world most readily and easily. But I also know that some ideas need to exist in other forms, and so whatever it is, be it music or fiction or something like that, or playwriting, then veering off into that when needed to, and then I don't know. I think there'll always be poems. So they'll all So I love poems. I like to think we're it's complicated. That's what we're saying. Yeah.
So your relationship status is it's complicated.
It's complicated.
Poetry.
It's love, but it's all complicated.
I like that you took that third option that I didn't mention. I appreciate that. So it's an open relationship between the two. How about you? How about you, Liz? Is it did you choose poetry? Did poetry choose you, or is it complicated as well?
I think we're probably equal partners. I think probably from when I was a little girl, poetry chose me because I've always loved poetry, and I grew up in a family where poetry was really treasured and enjoyed. So I think it probably caught me from a really early age, but in fact, it did take years and years before I had the confidence to accept its advances and say yes and start to write and make my own poems. And it probably definitely when I was an adult and I was working full time as a teacher, then I made a conscious choice then to say yes to it and to go back and to write and to fall in love with writing and reading.
So it was an early seduction on poetry's part, and you chose back to become a poet.
Yeah, it took me a while to get the confidence to say yes.
To say yes to what all the poetry was offering. That's lovely. Well, we've had a lot of enthusiastic response on social media to the reading tonight. In fact, one person says they just bought tickets to hear you and Liz and Don Patterson read on December 15th as a result of this reading. So that's very nice. I want to remind everyone that you both have wonderful books out, and books, I'm sure, in the works as well. So if you liked anything that you were hearing tonight, please do seek these poets out online. Please do buy their books. That's what really what keeps all of this going is your support of their work. And just to close out, I'm wondering. So it's an enthusiastic group, but not a lot of additional questions from here. I'm wondering if you have a question for each other, anything that you'd like to ask each other, or anything you'd like to kick off by way of conversation. Liz, let's start with you. Do you have a question for Danez?
Yeah, I do. I work a lot with young writers and young poets, and so I wondered, what advice would you give to a young poet just starting to discover poetry or wanting to write? From your experience, what advice would you give them?
Oh, okay. That's also going to be my question to you, I believe. But this is a good question. I love this question all the time. I think what I would tell like any young person, anybody starting out, is don't try to sound right. Try to sound weird, and you'll probably sound like yourself. You know, like follow every strange impulse you get to write a poem. You know, and just follow it from there, and like just don't don't prescribe yourself too early. You know, don't try to fit into anybody's school or you know, or sound like any other person. Just like write your whole strange, wonderful self. That's it. Yeah. How about you? This would be good. I'm starting to work in like a couple new classrooms in the week, and then I'm gonna teach some of your poems, and then I can tell them what you said. So what do you think?
Well, that's beautiful advice, and quite similar to what I'd probably say, is that don't be frightened of the wild things and the wild places. Poetry's got its heart in play. It's a game, it's a serious game, but it's got its heart in play and experimentation and spontaneity. So don't be frightened of going to the wild places and trying new things. And I always say to writers I work with, the worst thing that can ever happen is that you'll write a bad poem. And in the grand scheme of your life, that's a really tiny loss. So don't be afraid to try new things and have fun with it. Enjoy it.
Yeah, I like that. I like we forget that it's play. That's good. I think we forget that it's play. Yeah.
Well, thanks to you both for spending some time in serious play with us and with our listeners and viewers this evening, and for going to the wild places and bringing back the wonderful, just incredible range of work that you offered up tonight. I really was delighted, just absolutely delighted to be part of this. Want to just before we sign off, remind our viewers of our next upcoming broadcast. So we will be featuring Stephen Burt and David Wheatley on Saturday the 17th of October, 2015. Again, that's 8 p.m. in the UK, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and noon on the West Coast. And sounds like you're excited about that one as well.
Yeah, no,
I like Fantastic. Well, please do by all means tune in as well. So just it remains for me to say thanks to you both. It's been a tremendous pleasure to hear your work, and again remind everyone online, seek these poets out, seek out their work, attend their readings, buy their books, and continue the conversation of poetry without regard for geography, as we are here now. It's been a really a great pleasure, and we'll see you all back here in October. Bye for now.